this new track has a problem, and we're gonna devote a whole bike service school lesson to the problem because this issue is pretty common among the track bike owners. What is it? You've got noisy front end of the bike. Nothing happens when you're riding on the flat road, not really pushing too much through the handlebars. But when you're going, especially through the descents, and the wheel through the fork will put different forces in different directions on the head tube, it starts really not squeaking. It's noisy. It's a noisy thing. Number one, if you're just the owner of the bike, not the bike mechanic, do not let simply the bike mechanic ride through the parking lot and he would say, or she would tell you, there is no play here, I'm gonna simply grease the upper and lower bearing and then we'll tighten this little bolt and everything will be fine, and you pay for it, and then you go back to the trails and you hear the same noise. First thing, how to diagnose it. There are two easy ways to diagnose it. The first one, look at those markings on the frame side and on the headset side. You can see it right here. I'm going to zoom in a minute. You set the handlebars with the wheel straight, just parallel to the frame, and then these two, this marking and this marking, should be in line. Well, when they are in line, my wheel goes to the right. When the wheel is straight, it's like that. So we know there's an issue here. Here you can see the close-up, this marking on the frame side and this moving one on the headset side are not in line. And you can see that my wheel is straight. Now, to put it in line, I would have to turn to the right. I hope you see it. That's it. So we know, even more, we know there is an issue here. Step number two. All right, lift the front end of the bike. I'm turning to the right until I feel the resistance and I can push it a little more. That's no. I don't want to have it. So here's the resistance. Now I'm going to the left. You'll actually see when the wheel stops. It stopped, but then I'm able to pull it way more. Again, it goes now to the right side. It stops here. I'm able to push it more. That means that's the problem. The other thing is that on this bike with this frame, the handlebars would not hit the top tube and the crown would not hit the down tube. So there is no point of having knock block right here, but it's there and we'll manage. Okay, now we're gonna do it. You already know the good news number one, you can do it at home. Good news number two is that this system is actually not complicated, but the problem with track, you see, this is the problem with new bike. That means that bike mechanics from the track workshop didn't know how to assemble it, and track didn't really make good manuals, instructions for this. The only one I found is this. Here it is, and this is the 2021 e-bike track, some model of the e-bike, with this exploded view, which is nice. The manual is very short. It says where to put the grease on, and there is one little key moment here in this instruction, which I'm going to show you in a second. But first, I got the front wheel removed, and I'm ready to clamp the steerer of the fork in my next bike stand. You don't have to do it like that. And the beginning of this work is exactly the same as on any standard headset, which means I'm removing the upper bolt, which puts compression on the headset, and then I will loosen these two, which mount the stem to the steering tube, and then I will hold the fork. Step two, mounting bolts. In my opinion, this was too much torque. Even though it's not a carbon steerer, too much torque. First goes the stem with the handlebars. And now we've got the spacers, but the spacers are already different because they have these notches in order to move together, or rather not to move. And now the cover of the upper bearing. I've got the second bike stand. If you don't have it, that's no problem. Don't let the fork hang because it's not a good thing for the housings. You simply can put some big box underneath the frame and just let it lie down on the box. This is the so-called knob, K-N-O-B. Let's remove it. A long bolt. I'm going to clean everything and then we'll see how it works. Here's the steerer, the bearing race, it's clean, this is the crown. And for the Trek fuel users, this is 2024, I guess, model year. There's actually no additional seal between this part and this part, the head tube. So there's a little gap in between and the water, the dirt can come in. So the only protection for the bearing is actually the bearing seal. So make sure you don't pressure wash like this, perpendicular to the steerer tube. Okay, let's go. Here are all the parts, the lower bearing, the upper bearing, the compression ring. This is the knob with the mounting bolt. This is this headset cover with knock block and the O-ring, which comes here inside. And then we've got the spacers with the notches and the mounting bolt for the whole headset. Bearing race is greased and now the lower bearing goes on it. And for my comfort, the stem goes here. Back to the manual. These are the logo types for greasing. We grease just under and over the bearing, so the races, then under and over the upper bearing too. I'm going to do it now. What I also do, I will grease the gap between the bearing and the steerer here and here, because that's where the water comes in. That's where we have the grease. And the upper bearing race is ready for the bearing. Ta-da! Compression ring. And here's the step, my friends, that probably many bike mechanics will do wrong. And it's this one. Insert the knock block chip and bolt into the frame, but do not tighten it. So we should assemble the whole headset first and then tighten the knock block chip. A little problem I have with it is also the torque is only 2 Newton meters. It also says here 2 Newton meters. So here is our knock block chip. There are two things that keep it in position. Number one is the bolt, and number two is this thing, this knob that goes into the slot on the frame. I think that's the part that's making a noise. Of course, we'll do it now in the correct order, but also I'm thinking, can I do something bad to the frame if I put a little bit of grease right here? It doesn't say about it in the instruction, in the manual. We have aluminum here. I take it on myself. I will put a little bit of grease right here, not on the thread, just right here. The next thing that instruction is not telling us about is to put the thread lock on this little bolt. We've got only 2 Newton meters here, so I think it's a good idea to put it. Now, don't tighten it. Okay. Here is our knock block cover with this groove right here. This tooth will move in this groove, or actually the groove moves over this tooth. And before the handlebars or the fork crown hits the frame, it will stop it. By the way, I can see a huge gap right here, which will be great for the water to come in. You see, here are the notches, here are the grooves, and they will come together. And the stem has also these notches on both sides, in case you wanted to put it upside down. That's what I think. Oh. And how come we can make it crooked if there are these notches? It's because until we tighten the stem around the steerer, we can do it crooked, right? So what I'm doing right now, I will set my handlebars straight or perpendicular to the frame. I'm putting the wheel on to see even better than the wheel is straight according to the frame, like in line. And then I will set these 2 markings in line. Of course, you don't have to do it, but I'm just going to show you the straight line I have thrown through the wheel and the head tube, and it goes, that's important for me, through the saddle and the dropper post, the post, so I have this line. What we need now is compression on the headset, then tightening the stem, and then the knock block. The handlebars are right, the wheel is straight, and these two indicators are in line. We can now tighten the stem. And now 2 Newton meters. And that's it. And now 5 Newton meters on the stem. It's time for the test. We've got 2 markers in line, but what I'm interested in now is to see how far will the handlebars turn each side. This is the right side. Now to the left, it's exactly the same. That's it. And there is no spongy feeling. There is boom, 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 boom. It's time for the 3 questions in this lesson. The third one will be a little bit different than usually. Question number 1. What are the methods for diagnosing the problem with knock block on the track bike? Write it down in the comment. Number 2, when assembling the headset with the knock block, when do we tighten the knock block chip and with how many Newton meters? And number 3, if the standard headset service would cost around $10, how much should the knock block headset service cost? Remember that your customer should also pay you not only for the time, but for your knowledge. So what's your offer? What's your idea of the price for this work? Put it in the comments. Thank you so much. I'm racing in today, so now I'm gonna just pack. Tomorrow morning we are leaving just at the Baltic Sea, Reval in Poland, 55 kilometers, cobblestones and gravel on my Winspace road bike. See you, bye-bye.